Love is giving unconditionally.
Being there, whatever the case might be, in good and in bad.
Somebody who is going to be there for you, supportive, caring, and has just a general understanding of you as a person.
Just loving somebody for who they are and understanding them.
For me, it's just giving it all. You just give what you have, the bad and the good.
What I see when I see David and Adeline is two people who have absolute respect for each other and who just love each other, but in a way that's not controlling, it's not conditional, so it's completely unconditional.
Adi, larger than life, really. I would describe Adi as zest for life. She's full of love, and she's got this laugh that is quite infectious. When she starts laughing, you can't really help it. You have to laugh with her. She's very proud of her house and her things as well. So yeah.
Adeline is more bubbly. She's outspoken. She's the one who speaks louder. She's the one who's showing about the relationship, because she's protective of David. If David is doing anything, if you try to stop David, Adeline is up in arms with you.
David, he is a gentleman. That's the word. We can learn from him out of the things that he does in life.
He's more quiet, reserved, but sure of himself. He's very, very sure of himself.
He's a whole package. He's such a loving person. He's the one who lets Adeline do whatever she wants to do.
Together they work brilliantly. I think David keeps Adeline young and Adeline gives David a lot of joy.
When I work with David and Adi, every time I come in, it's a different day, and the welcome I get is just, even if I had my own problems and my own worries, once I come in and Adeline welcomes me and laughs with me and we go and have a cup of tea, and it just evaporates, and I just feel happy.
I think it's about 10 years ago that I met David and Adeline. What I remember about them when I first met them was that they both sat in the same chair in this chaotic house, really, that was very big, so it was very noisy, quite a lot of conflict. So what I felt when I first met them was actually they sat in the chair together to keep each other safe, and actually they just kind of sat quietly and looked out for each other, really. So then I started to do some work with them to get to know them and kind of get a sense of how their support needed to be. And then they moved into their house a few months after that, which they rent, so they're tenants in their own home.
When I started working, I never thought people with severe learning disability would have a meaningful relationship. And I kept on asking myself, how do they work out the nitty-gritties of the small things of relationship, the way I would probably think.
Thank you, Adi. When we started, I think there was a judgment of, and me being part of it as well, that people saw, including myself, I didn't see the relationship. I just used to think there are two people who live together.
What we would always do when we're supporting people is to follow the person's lead. I think we didn't get that right at first in terms of David and Adeline being partners, because I think there's a real taboo about people like David and Adeline being partners, so it was fine that they were friends, but somehow that shift to it being much more than that took us a little while, I think.
When we started leaving them on their own, that's when, for me, that's when I noticed that the intimacy was different from being a friend. The way they were with each other when there's no one was different when you just leave them on their own. And we all started talking about it. But I think that everyone's saying there's really something going on for David and Adeline. And when we accepted it, and for me as well, when I started accepting that this is a relationship and talking openly about it, to say, oh, you really enjoy time on your own. Oh, when you're with David, this is what I see you doing. You really like doing that. And I think it meant for them that we have acknowledged it, because for some time we were not acknowledging it.
Just from following David and Adeline's lead and watching and noticing all the little things that they did to show each other how much they cared, I suppose in a way he was showing us that that was right for them and that they were okay with it. They didn't have a problem with it at all. They were fine. So things like if Adeline went out without David, if he was in the house, would wait at the window and look out of the window all the time to see if she was coming, and when she came would be really, really excited and just welcome her back, really, and then become more relaxed. I think if David goes out without Adeline, because they might do different things, Addie sits on the sofa, and the minute she hears the door, you can see she's looking to see who it is. And when it's David, it's like, wow, and she's really pleased to see him. And if I was David, I would know absolutely that she's really pleased to see me. And she takes his shoes off, she takes his socks off, and it's like, oh, you're home. And I'm glad you're back.
What happened is Adeline used to kiss David, and you don't really kiss your brother really, or your friends, and that's how people came to realize, oh, there might be something here that we don't really see, and people started listening to them and watching and looking. So that's how they came to see that there's something special.
People started to introduce David and Adeline to people like at church and at the leisure centre and the places they went as a couple. And I think we had this kind of aha moment when Sheba, who worked in the team, just said, well, they are a couple, so why aren't we saying that? And it's like, yes, she's right. And actually that was really fascinating, because when people started to be introduced to David and Adeline and people said David and Adeline are partners, actually everybody completely just said, oh, okay. No one had a problem with it at all, because it was just presented as a fact. So there wasn't a debate about it.
I think they were leading it. All we needed was to be there. So I think what we just did was to follow them.
Over time, there's been a real deepening of that connection. So the way they choose to be intimate together has changed, and they're really clear now when they want us to go out of the room. They've got a deep respect for each other.
Sorry, I'm so late.
No, it's all right. Come in. You're right,
Oh gosh, I'm fine, thank you.
to see
Yeah,
you.
same here. That intimacy is there. The holding of hands, the cuddling, the kissing, and really just like the way they look at each other. It might be just a fleeting second, but it's there, and I even remember writing a poem about them. I may not say this all the time in words, but my actions, they show you how much I love you. The way I sit at your feet, the way I lay my head on your lap. I love you, because that's what I could see. And that would be like, I'd leave them at that point in that corner there, and they'd cuddle up and hold each other and really have their moment together and just walk away. That's when I realized this is love.
There's just the small things that they don't take for granted, like the morning walk and David respecting Addie, waiting for Addie to have her personal care in the morning.
For David and Adeline, it's unconditional. It's just what they give each other. is so deep that, you know, unless you live with them, you know, it's such a things like David waking up in the morning and waiting for Adeline to get ready. You know, that I'm waiting for you here, and then they walk down. And although David will get ready before Adeline, he'll not go down the steps before Adeline, you know, stop, wait for Adeline to take time to go down the steps. That in itself just shows the respect they've got for each other. And they communicate so well, it's incredible. I remember David used to go in the kitchen, grab chocolate, and bring it to Adeline, and then be sharing, and you'd be covered in chocolate from head to toe. And I would come and say, oh my goodness, what's happening? Is all chocolate everywhere? Yeah, I know. And that was incredible. I know. And I know I'm telling you a secret. So yeah, it's the way they relate to each other. They miss each other, they love each other, they care for each other, they protect each other.
Okay. All right.
There you go, David. Yeah, the water's come up quite a bit.
Is it?
Yeah. Next up. Step up, well
Next
done,
up,
David.
David.
Go, buddy.
Right, you know what you're doing?
Aim to A, the white one on the far side, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Line them up.
We do person-centred plans with people each year, and they're facilitated by someone who doesn't work in Get a Life. Some of the thinking that we do is like, well, if the person didn't have a disability, what would they be doing in their life? And that was like, oh, actually, you know, Adeline's sisters and brothers are mainly in relationships. Some of them are married. So probably she would be married if she didn't have a learning difficulty, if she had a partner like she does. So it kind of got put on Adeline's plan as a dream, with nobody really knowing where that would go. When we did David's plan, it was there for him as well. David's mum wasn't sure about that though, and she wasn't sure whether what we were seeing was what was really there or what we wanted to see. So she thought we were romantics, really. So it just sat on their plan as a possible dream for a couple of years, really, where kind of it got talked about each year, but I suppose it never felt right to do it without everybody in David and Adeline's life being right with it, really. And then actually there was a whole thing about the capacity and are they legally able to get married, and I guess they don't have capacity to do that. So then it was like, oh, okay, if we can't do that, how else would they want to celebrate it? The kind of compromise was a blessing at the church and a celebration of their relationship was what it was called. And it was perfect. I don't know how David and Adeline knew how to do that day, but they did. David waited really quietly in his suit for Adeline to get ready. Adeline had stuff in her hair that she doesn't usually tolerate. She wore makeup that she kept on. She just walked down the stairs in this beautiful dress that she didn't stand on or trip over or anything. She just did the whole thing really, really well. And at the church, what I remember about the church is that David spent time either by his mum or with Adeline. So it felt like he was just making sure that both of them were okay, really.
Even some of the staff members, they thought it can't happen. How do we know that it can happen? And when it happened, it was just memorable. And David and Addie seems to know what exactly they were meant to do because they did it perfectly. Yeah, and David's mom was also very pleased with seeing David getting married to Addie, really. And telling the whole world that he wants to live with this lady. Yeah, so yeah.
I think everyone just embraced it because that's what they wanted. So they celebrated it. They celebrated it.
You could see what that meant to them when they were in church, when they were being blessed, how attentive they were, and the way they were following all the proceedings.
The vicar at the church, who knew them well, talked really beautifully about what he'd learnt about them from them going to the church regularly and about what he saw. It was just a really, really lovely day, and really, just David and Adeline clearly got it really and understood what was happening, and were really pleased to take part in it. I think there's a whole taboo about people with learning difficulties having relationships, and there's loads of stuff around that. There's all the stuff about what if they have children. There's also the stuff about, do people have capacity, so is it exploitative? So I think there's a lot of stuff that people aren't sure about, and I think that what happens is staff and people who are trying to work out how to protect people get a bit confused about keeping people safe, because actually David and Adeline are much safer because of their relationship than they would be if that wasn't present or if that wasn't recognised.
I don't know why there aren't more people being supported this way. I think it's quite sad that people don't be supported in that way. I think David and Adeline's relationship is very, very special, and they make it very clear. I don't know whether other people don't make their relationship so clear. And maybe I think that the people that are supporting them don't really listen.
It's not what we think is right, it's what is right for them really. Because for David and Addie, it was very important to know that from the word go really, because if we didn't go by their lead and go by what they believe in, then we wouldn't be where we are at the moment. I got it right, didn't I? I think so.
It's about accepting people's choices. It's their choice to be in a relationship. And who are we to say there is no relationship? What is there to say this is for relationships and this is not for relationships? How do we judge relationships? So we are all in relationships in our own way and in our different ways. So I just think that we need to accept people for who they are and for their choices.
What David and Adeline can teach us is that anything's possible, and that the impossible is possible. When we were thinking about writing a book and thinking about chapter headings, the chapter heading that people thought was right for David and Adeline was that the impossible's possible. And I think that probably is that's a fairly good way of summing it up, really.
Yes, I think for me, David and Adeline, when I accepted their relationship, it made me accept myself, that I can move on and be in a relationship as well and just enjoy myself. Because I think when I was not accepting that there could be a relationship for them as well, I was also doing that to myself, because there's something that has happened to me. My first husband has died, so I can't move on. So it's like I was saying, oh, you have a learning disability. How can you know how to love? But once I accepted that, I think I freed myself as well into thinking that anything is possible and it can also happen to me.
I mean, I suppose my hope for David and Adeline and their relationship is that they can just grow old together, really, and that they, that they do that as a couple and that goes well for them. I think that their story could really help other people. Somebody who knows David and Adeline through working with Get Alive told their story in Prague, and it was really exciting because some people who were in the audience who have disabilities came to the speaker at the end and said, we've been in a relationship for years but we've never told anybody because it's not allowed, but we've just told our support worker and now we want to get married. And you think, wow, that's an amazing thing, that just hearing David and Adeline's story has meant someone else can have that chance, really.
Every time we go out, people are always curious, and we always introduce David and Adi as David and Adeline. They want to know more. They want to know more how it came to be and how you know they're in love. And the most satisfying thing about working with them, with David and Adi, is seeing them having accomplished what they really wanted to accomplish, and really telling people this we want to be together, which they have. People accept them, the neighbours accept them as David and Adeline, and they live together as a couple. And everybody really, in the supermarkets, when we go to Morrison's, people know them. If you go to Costco, people know them. If you go to town in Coventry, people will always say, hi, hello, David and Adeline. In church, people respect them and see them as citizens who are giving something to their community and giving something back to their church, really.
It's a great kind of blessing, I suppose, or a joy to have David and Adeline here. They bring a joy and delight, and as people come in and pass them, people are saying hello. So they bring a lot to us, really, that reminds us we're a community where everyone can belong, old and young, male and female, able-bodied or not able-bodied. Everybody is part of the community, and everybody has something to share and bring as part of that community.
I think when we put value in a human being, to just look at a person, as a valuable person, as part of your community, as part of your neighborhood, and accepting that person as they are, I think then we are valuing everyone anyway. So I think the wider community can just learn that everyone is a human being despite what disability they have, and just treat them as equals. I know it's difficult because of the judgments, but if we could, it would be a better world to live in. Yeah.
If we were thinking about what we would want people to take from David and Adeline's story, I suppose if you're someone with a learning difficulty, maybe it is that it's possible to have a really loving relationship where you're a partner, and that's okay, and that there's nothing abnormal about that it's kind of what most people want and most people aspire to, I guess. Not everybody, but a lot of people. And I guess in the journey of like David and Adeline moving from a hospital to living in a nursing home to having their own home, once you've got your own home, it shouldn't finish there. So actually, I think that's what's happened for lots of people with learning difficulties. They've got a nice home and support, but actually the next bit is the real, well, how do we help people have really meaningful relationships in their community with the people supporting them and with each other if they're lucky enough to meet somebody. I suppose there's something about if you're open to it and if you talk about it, what we've learned is that the people we support are really open and ready, really. So everybody's got to be open.
It's been an incredible journey. And I was very glad it ended up in that picture. It was fantastic.
It's just so lovely to see a couple be so happy all the time. They are an inspiration. They're lovely.
I just love them. They're just like the kind of some of the best people I know. So they're just great fun to be with. They're always welcoming. They always make you feel really special. So kind of it's like they're inspiring because they're just great people.